Grand Canyon wildfire, inside the devastating Dragon Bravo fire. A devastating wildfire at the Grand Canyon has unleashed chaos, destruction, and difficult questions. It approached like a freight train. On July 4, a lightning strike ignited a small fire in the dry forests of the remote North Rim of Grand Canyon National Park. At that moment, few could foresee the impending devastation and heartache that would follow. Fire management officials believed the conditions were favorable to allow the fire to burn at a controlled, low intensity. This method, known as control and contain, is intended to eliminate excess fuel and reduce the risk of a more severe wildfire in the future. Recent rains had moistened the forest floor, and forecasts suggested that the summer monsoon season was on the horizon. However, just a week later, the park's strategy unraveled. On July 11, the fire broke through its containment lines and began to accelerate rapidly, expanding tenfold in just one day. "The fire sounded like a freight train approaching us," recalled a firefighter from the National Park Service, who was engaged in battling the blaze. By July 12, the destruction appeared to be unstoppable. In the following 24 hours, approximately 70 structures were lost, including the historic Grand Canyon Lodge, numerous visitor cabins, and various park administrative offices and residences. Images of the smoldering lodge and the smoke-filled canyon flooded news outlets and social media platforms. Suddenly, it seemed as though the entire world was questioning the decision to refrain from extinguishing the fire immediately. Nearly 2 weeks into the incident, the so-called Dragon Bravo fire remains only 2% contained, having consumed nearly 12,000 acres, 4,900 hectares, with over 750 firefighters engaged in the battle. The North Rim of the park has always been the quieter counterpart to the more popular South Rim, attracting only 10% of the park's annual visitors and fostering a dedicated following. The news of this tragedy has deeply affected Grand Canyon enthusiasts. The area has been closed for the remainder of the season, leaving hundreds of national park and concession employees suddenly without homes and jobs. Countless summer vacations to the park have been cancelled. Yet, there is an even deeper, more existential loss. A cherished location, valued by visitors and staff for its beauty and tranquility, has been abruptly taken away. The heart of this sanctuary, the Grand Canyon Lodge, often likened to the park's Notre Dame, now lies in ruins. It's difficult to articulate the profound loss of the Grand Canyon Lodge, expressed a longtime North Rim Park employee on social media. "The lodge and North Rim were not merely structures and trails, they were our home, and now they are gone. It feels as though a part of our identity has been consumed in the flames." #The origin of the blaze. As the initial shock begins to fade and the reality of the loss sinks in, many questions arise regarding how this tragedy unfolded and what steps should be taken moving forward. In retrospect, the choice to allow the fire to burn without immediate intervention has come under intense scrutiny. However, a Grand Canyon fire crew member present during the early days of the fire, who requested anonymity for fear of job repercussions, stated that the decision seemed reasonable based on the conditions at the time. For the first few days, the fire behaved as anticipated. But on July 11, humidity levels dropped sharply. Embers began to leap over containment lines in the dry air as strong winds shifted direction, allowing the fire to escape down a drainage and gain momentum, as if it had been doused in gasoline. By the following day, the fire had surged from 120 acres to 1,500 acres. Around 500 visitors at the North Rim had already been evacuated due to another fire outside the park, known as the White Sage Fire. The remaining residents were also evacuated, and the park's fire crew commenced spraying down structures. However, the team faced significant challenges due to inadequate equipment and manpower. According to the firefighter, some of the department's already limited resources had been diverted to combat the White Sage fire. They were short 2 fire engines and a bulldozer, and they required additional personnel. Furthermore, aerial support would not arrive until the following day. By nightfall on July 11th, the rapidly expanding fire had encircled the crew, and they were instructed by their superiors to seek refuge in the North Rim's fire station. Soon, the firefighter reported, the flames were everywhere. Nearby, another group of firefighters found themselves trapped on a helipad, surrounded by flames towering 100 feet, 30.5 meters, high. "We were trapped," the firefighter recalled. "We thought we were going to die. Propane tanks from nearby buildings were exploding all around us. Our homes and our friends' homes were ablaze, and there was nothing we could do." Situated at a cool elevation of 8,000 feet on the Kaibab Plateau in northern Arizona, the North Rim of Grand Canyon National Park is a 4-hour drive from the more renowned South Rim. This isolation is what makes it special for both park employees and visitors, but the largely undeveloped area is also particularly susceptible to wildfires. A single paved road connects the park to Jacob Lake, a small village located about 50 miles away. The ponderosa pine forest ecosystem of the Kaibab Plateau depends on regular low-intensity fires to maintain its health, yet these fires were suppressed by federal policies throughout much of the 20th century. Over the past 2 decades, national park managers have sought to restore the Grand Canyon's natural forest ecosystem through prescribed burns, or by allowing naturally ignited wildfires to burn. This strategy had been successful as recently as July 2022, when a lightning strike ignited a fire on the North Rim that grew to only 1,300 acres, as fire crews effectively managed the blaze's boundaries. However, there have been less successful instances. In June 2006, a lightning-sparked fire trapped several hundred visitors after strong winds pushed the flames beyond containment lines. The only paved exit from the park was blocked by fire, but law enforcement officers guided visitors to safety via a network of winding dirt roads. Ken Phillips, who dedicated 27 years to the Grand Canyon as Chief of Emergency Services, believes that allowing the Dragon Bravo fire to burn was a grave error. He also emphasizes that lives could have been lost if visitors had not already been evacuated due to the White Sage fire. The North Rim did not need to burn in such a manner, putting firefighters at risk, he stated. There is a history of managed wildfires escaping at the Grand Canyon. It is tragic that the lessons learned from those incidents were not applied in this case. In response to inquiries regarding the fire's management, a spokesperson referred to a public statement from Ed Keeble, the Grand Canyon superintendent, who characterized the wildfire as a devastating event. In a previous statement to the Arizona Republic, Rachel Paulitz, a park spokesperson, defended the initial management of the fire and contradicted the experiences reported by firefighters on July 11th and 12th. "We've lost buildings, but hundreds of lives were saved because this fire was expertly managed," she asserted. The firefighters did not put themselves or others at risk during the initial firefight, despite the historic wind gusts that caused the fire to leap multiple containment lines and advance toward facilities. ####, like losing a close friend. Constructed in 1936, the Grand Canyon Lodge is situated at the edge of a peninsula that extends into the canyon, offering unparalleled views of this natural wonder. Visitor cabins, located nearby on the rim, are shaded by towering old-growth pine and spruce trees. Catherine Leonard, the State Historic Preservation Officer for Arizona, describes the architectural style of the historic buildings as National Park rustic. The lodge and cabins harmonize with the surrounding environment, featuring rock walls made from Kaibab limestone and roofs supported by exposed ponderosa pine trusses. According to Leonard, the Grand Canyon Lodge was uniquely idyllic and open. Upon entering the building, visitors could descend a staircase into a sunroom adorned with leather couches and a large south-facing picture window that framed a breathtaking view of the Grand Canyon, which is approximately 5,000 feet deep and 20 miles wide. The best vantage point was on the lodge's patio, where guests could relax in Adirondack chairs, enjoying the sunset while sipping a cold drink. Images of the lodge that circulated on social media after the fire revealed that all but 2 Adirondack chairs had been destroyed. Everything else was reduced to ash, save for the limestone walls. "I couldn't believe the lodge was gone until I saw the photo," remarked Phillips, the former emergency services manager. "The loss of the entire developed area of the North Rim feels like the death of a close friend." "The magnitude of this loss is staggering," Leonard concurred. "Historic resources are irreplaceable, and the craftsmanship in the cabin and lodge interiors cannot be duplicated." Nevertheless, Leonard remains cautiously optimistic that some aspects of the building may be salvaged. "There may be a way to rebuild that honors what was there without attempting to replicate it. Beyond the charred structures, the more enduring damage may be to the Grand Canyon's environment itself." The forested region on the Kaibab Plateau, where the Dragon Bravo fire is raging, includes the recharge zone that supplies Roaring Springs, the park's only source of drinking water. Rain and snowmelt filter through the ground to replenish the springs located several thousand feet below the canyon rim. Surface water in the area also drains off the plateau into Bright Angel Creek. "From a hydrological standpoint, the fire is catastrophic," stated Mark Nebel, who recently retired after overseeing water monitoring at the Grand Canyon. Nebel is concerned that ash, sediment, and chemical fire retardants may infiltrate the ground and contaminate the aquifer that feeds the springs. These pollutants are also likely to be washed into the Bright Angel watershed this summer, as flash flooding is anticipated due to the fire. "The quality of drinking water in the park could be compromised for many years," Nebel added. As Arizona's Governor, Katie Hobbs, has called for an investigation into the decisions made by the Park Service, and firefighters continue to combat the blaze, North Rim employees find themselves reminiscing about happier times. John McFarland, a former maintenance mechanic who lived and worked on the North Rim for 3 decades, recalls organizing a 4th of July parade at the park each summer, followed by an epic water gun fight in front of the lodge. Many of the buildings he cared for are now gone, but he is taking the loss in stride. "The Grand Canyon is still there," he said. "Some of the old-growth trees remain. The place will recover." Dragon Bravo Fire, the fate of the Grand Canyon's historic sculpture. Imagine standing at the historic Grand Canyon Lodge on the North Rim, marveling at the iconic Brighty the Burro sculpture. This bronze statue, dedicated to a real donkey that roamed the Grand Canyon in the early 1900s, has been a beloved landmark for over 5 decades. But here's where it gets controversial. There are reports that the Dragon Bravo fire may have destroyed this cherished piece of history. The Grand Canyon Historical Society recently posted an image on Facebook suggesting that the sculpture has fallen victim to the Dragon Bravo fire. While the authenticity of this image hasn't been confirmed by Arizona's family, the implications are significant. Brighty, the real donkey, became famous enough to inspire a children's book and even a movie, which led to the creation of this enduring bronze statue. Many visitors to the lodge have fond memories of rubbing Brighty's nose for good luck before embarking on their hikes. Lauren Hofer, who developed a deep affection for the donkey after receiving the children's book as a gift from her father, shares the hope that the sculpture can be restored. "I just wonder if he can be fixed," she says. "From the one image I've seen, it looks like he might have lost his legs. Hopefully, his ears are still intact. Maybe they can find the pieces and put him back together somehow." Determined to support the restoration efforts, Hofer plans to auction off some collectibles and donate the proceeds to a fundraiser aimed at rebuilding the North Rim area. This initiative underscores the importance of preserving such cultural landmarks, especially those with stories that resonate across generations. As we consider the fate of Brighty the Burro, it raises questions about how we value and protect our historical treasures in the face of natural disasters. What other hidden gems in our national parks might be at risk? How can we ensure that future generations can continue to connect with these important parts of our heritage? Do you have thoughts on the best ways to preserve such historical sculptures? Or perhaps you have a personal connection to Brighty or the Grand Canyon Lodge? Share your insights in the comments below. Exploring the history of Grand Canyon Lodge, from Union Pacific Railroad to Wildfire. A historic landmark has been lost to the flames, and it's a tragedy that resonates deeply with many. The Grand Canyon Lodge, a cherished hotel established by the Union Pacific Railroad in the 1930s, was tragically consumed by a wildfire in July, as reported by the National Park Service on July 13. This devastating fire, which swept through a 20-square-mile area on the northern side of the Grand Canyon, has resulted in the destruction of between 50 to 80 structures, marking a significant loss for the region. Originally, the Union Pacific Railroad, through its subsidiary Utah Parks Company, constructed a lodge at the North Rim in 1928. Unfortunately, this first lodge met a similar fate just 4 years later, when it was destroyed by fire. However, a new lodge was promptly erected on the same site, incorporating some enhancements, and it officially opened its doors in 1937. For several decades, from the 1920s until 1972, the Utah Parks Company managed operations in several national parks, including Canyon, Zion, and Grand Canyon, as well as Cedar Breaks National Monument. After the company ceased operations, the Union Pacific Railroad generously donated the majority of its park properties to the National Park Service, ensuring their preservation for future generations. The Grand Canyon Lodge is not alone in its misfortune. It joins a list of railroad lodges that have succumbed to fire in recent years. For instance, the Sperry Chalet, built by the Great Northern Railway in Glacier National Park, was destroyed by fire in 2017, but was later rebuilt. Additionally, in 2024, the Jasper Park Lodge, constructed by Canadian National, faced a near catastrophe when it was almost engulfed in flames, though it ultimately sustained only minor damage. This series of events raises important questions about the preservation of historical sites in the face of natural disasters. How can we better protect these irreplaceable landmarks? What measures should be taken to prevent such tragedies in the future? We invite you to share your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Do you agree with the current strategies in place, or do you think more should be done? Let's discuss.